Hello and welcome back to the Motorsport Better podcast. I'm your host Didi, and joining me today once again is my friend and your co-host Vedant. On this episode, we'll be talking about the F1 French GP. So let's grab some chai, take our seats, ready our opinions, and dive right into the conversation. Well, Vedant, we can talk about the French GP all we want, but the breaking news is that Sebastian Vettel has announced his retirement from driving in F1. Your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a very sad day for Formula One because not just for Formula One, but for motorsport in general. Because one of the biggest names in motorsport, one of the biggest best personalities in motorsport is retiring. He's not going to be in the paddock anymore, at least for the near future. He might come back as a pundit or as a commentator later, but I don't think he'll come back in the near future as such. But yeah, it is a very sad day. And although I was not a big Seb fan during his Red Bull days, because obviously we are Ferrari fans, right? But the when he joined Ferrari, I was a little dicey that why is he coming to Ferrari and all that. But man, that guy won me over throughout his not just his Ferrari driving, but his personality, and the change in personality that we saw over the last few seasons. It was enough to make a grown man cry, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean he's the one who reignited the Ferrari dream, and a German driver who had won a
Yeah.
more than one world championship in this case, moved to Ferrari with the same dream that Michael Schumacher had created. It and it was just sad. I mean, obviously for a lot of at least hardcore Ferrari fans, Sebastian Vettel had retired the day it was announced that he won't be driving for
Yeah.
Ferrari anymore, and it was just a matter of time, when a world champion, before a world champion quit driving in F1 because all he could drive in was a backmarker car. But yeah, definitely sad. Again, like you said, I wasn't the biggest fan of Sebastian Vettel when he was driving and
Yeah.
winning for Red Bull, because we all wanted Ferrari to win, and obviously, even with Ferrari when he was driving for Ferrari, in my opinion, he squandered one world title championship challenge sooner than
Yeah,
he should have.
absolutely.
But other than that, obviously everybody loves Seb, and I think I don't know if you've seen the video, but in his short interview clip that he had with F1, I think he was talking to Lawrence Barretto. He said there's a lot of things. Obviously, he said that he wants to spend more time with his family, with his kids. But he said, there are a lot of other projects that he's also interested in. So it'll be very. I mean, I'm waiting to see what Seb does next.
Yeah.
That is a question. Like, when people had been speculating about Lewis Hamilton retiring, the same question was there. What will Lewis do next? But I'm excited to see what does Seb do
Yeah,
next.
absolutely. I mean, uh, it was a multiple of factors. He was obviously he had a young family. He was not in a car that he was promised when he joined Aston Martin, right? He was promised much better success, if not wins and podiums, but at least fighting in the midfield for the first couple of seasons. But right now they are just fighting to get into the top 10 as such. And of course, his other projects, his other hobbies outside Formula One, which he's very passionate about, as we have seen, and the B project, the LGBTQ community plus community project. I think these are the things that he'll get involved with, and if he can get those things and connect them to Formula One or motorsports in general in some way or the other, and take his two three passions together, it would be the greatest thing.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. But Sebastian Vettel leaving has raised a huge question. Lawrence Stroll, like we have talked about again and again, Lawrence Stroll is not going to win a world championship with Lance Stroll in that Aston Martin. But who is going to accompany Lance Stroll next season? And I remember 2 years ago when COVID hit, Sebastian Vettel's move away from Ferrari is what kicked off the
Yeah.
silly season. Now, obviously, we've had some silly season, talks so far about Oscar Piastri, Logan Sargent even, And a couple of the drivers, Sebastian Vettel has just vacated one more seat in F1, and he's vacated and Daniel Ricciardo we talked about, but he's vacated a seat for sure going to next season. There are no ifs, buts, and ands about this seat. What are your thoughts, Vedant, on who's gonna fill those boots that Sebastian Vettel will be leaving?
It's a very interesting topic, and we can speculate all we want, right? We can debate about it for a 1 hour episode, right? But it won't be enough. And I think obviously we have a few candidates for all the seats in Formula One right now. Uh, Logan Sargent is the newest candidate, but I think he'll only be a candidate for Williams, right?
But Josh Capito has already said, just on that, Josh Capito has come out and said that Logan Sargent will not be moving to
Yeah.
F1 immediately. That means next season. He said at least until 2024, because Josh Capito wants Logan Sargent to spend another season in F2, and he's made that pretty clear. So I think Logan Sargent is pretty much out of the conversation at
Well,
this point.
then it leaves us with Oscar Piastri and yeah, I think. Wait, who else? It's on
I mean, there's
Nico
Nico
Hülkenberg.
Hülkenberg, who's a
Yes.
super sub, but again, he's not exactly a
Yeah,
race-winning
exactly.
driver.
But see,
And when you put Nico Hülkenberg and Lance Stroll together, you get P10s and P11s,
the
maybe a
thing
P7.
is, the thing is, no race-winning driver will move to Aston Martin for 2023.
All right. What about a left field move? What about Romain Grosjean making his comeback
I don't
to
think
F1?
Roman will come back to Formula One. I think Roman and any other driver in IndyCar right now.
He's just moved to
Yeah,
the
yeah, he
US, dude.
just
Like he just
settled
settled in the
exactly
US this year.
with all his family. So, and
Yeah.
on that note, another Formula One driver in IndyCar, Marcus Ericsson. I don't think these guys will move to
No.
Formula One to fight for a couple of points, right? Even Roman Grosjean can fight for top fives and top sevens right now and potentially a podium. So I don't think anyone from IndyCar is coming to Aston Martin specifically. If if hypothetically Daniel Ricciardo vacates that seat and Daniel Ricciardo joins Aston Martin, as there have been rumors today, then we can
Yeah.
potentially see someone like Alex Palou to come and join McLaren, right? But other than that, I don't think.
Yeah, talking about Expolo, Chip Ganassi
Yeah,
finally sued him. It was coming, but we all knew it was going to happen, because that
yeah,
is the next step in those proceedings. But it still hit like a. It was still very shocking for some reason. I don't know why. Like, it was expected, but when I saw the news, I'm like, what is happening? Why is this happening? And then obviously it makes
yeah. I
sense.
mean,
But
yeah.
anyway, coming back to F1.
But yeah, it's. I mean, it's the silly season has just started. All the other rumors and all the other deals and contract extensions are not part of the silly season. The silly season has just begun, and as usual with Seb Vettel. Well, not usual, but yeah,
I
last.
don't know if Gasly has for sure signed
Yeah,
with
he has.
Alpha
He
Tauri
has. He
for
has.
2023. Okay, he has. I was like, otherwise,
Yeah.
this is a great opportunity for Gasly to finally move out of somewhere where he's never going to,
Yeah.
move up. But I think some people are talking about Nick De Vries. Uh, but if you're talking about Formula E, someone I would like to see in an F1 car would be
Yeah.
Jeff. Uh, it will shake up the paddock a little bit. It will create some drama, and it will be a lot of fun if that is the case. But yeah, it's we have so many juniors, but somehow like obviously Aston Martin does not need a junior driver. It needs someone who's there with experience and everything else. Speed, who's very good at development and all of this. And somehow we are out of such drivers, which is really weird to say, because I think 2 podcasts ago we were talking about, oh, there's no room for new drivers or other drivers from other places, and now we're like, oh well, we need someone with experience, and who's gonna fill
Yeah.
those shoes?
I mean,
Uh,
obviously,
and when you think
yeah,
about
I'm
like
sorry, but Sebastian Vettel's shoes are too big to fill, right? So that's another level altogether.
yeah, and I'm like, and when you think about all of that, then Daniel Ricciardo suddenly sort of
Exactly.
makes sense, because he has a lot of experience. He's done well before. Yes, he has not had a good couple of years, but that was Seb. when he moved to Aston Martin. Obviously, Daniel's not a world champion, but he's a multiple-time race winner. He almost gave Max a run for his money when he was at Red Bull, and he's got a lot of
Yeah.
experience under his belt.
Daniel Ricciardo outright dominated Sebastian Vettel in his first
Yeah, that
season
is true. Yeah.
as Seb's teammate in the Red Bull, which Seb dominated. So yeah, Daniel Ricciardo has the experience to uh, lead Aston Martin now, as such.
Yeah. I mean, what does Lawrence Stroll want is the question, I guess, at the end of
Well,
the
I
day.
don't I
What
don't
is he
think
willing to
Lawrence
do?
Stroll knows what he wants, because the way the
Oh, he knows. He knows he wants a
yeah,
world
he
championship.
knows
I'll tell you
that, but
that.
I don't think he's going about the right way, or they like, I don't know, his expectations are too optimistic for Formula One. I think that, but who knows what can happen, and who knows what will happen. So all we can hope is have a good
Yep.
summer break after this weekend, and hopefully things will start taking shape.
We'll
Yeah,
we'll see. We'll see. But enough about everything but
yeah,
the French GP. Let's come back to the French GP. And obviously, so when that Leclerc crash happened, obviously that is the biggest talking point, right? When that Leclerc crash happened, the first image in my mind was Sebastian
yeah.
Vettel in the wall at Germany in 2018, and I was like, this feels the same. And then I opened up Twitter, and
Everyone was feeling the
there were
same,
a few people
exactly.
who said exactly the same thing, and I'm like, well, I guess I'm not alone. And it does seem like there's a 63-point difference now between Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen. Charles Leclerc will ideally have to win every race from now on to have a chance to win the world
Yeah.
championship, which seems quite impossible given the first 12 races of the season. uh, and what is even more confusing is Mattia Binotto said about 4 races ago that we are not trying to fight for the world championship this year. If you
Yeah.
remember that, we're just trying to fight for race wins. And now Mattia Binotto comes out and says, "Oh, we need a 1-2 in Hungary and as many races as going forward." And I'm like, "Do you know what your plan is?" Sorry. So what are your thoughts, Vedant? Because the way I am looking at it is, if you don't get a 1-2 in Hungary, you move on to next year immediately. There is no point trying to win this battle now.
Yeah, I mean,
You move because the points gap is too huge. You move on to next year. You prepare for next year, and you do your best to get the best car possible next year. Uh, but if you get a 1-2 in Hungary, then you try to hold out as long as possible, as long as you keep getting those 1-2s, or just winning with Charles for as long as possible. And then as soon as you lose, you move on. As soon as that gap gets too big, obviously it's not over till it's over, but you have to be a bit realistic, because here we're talking about Ferrari trying to beat Red Bull,
yeah.
not Mercedes
Yeah.
trying to beat Red Bull.
I mean, mathematically, I think it goes like this: that if Max Verstappen wins in Hungary, then he only needs second place finishes for the rest of the season to win the
Yeah,
championship, right?
yeah.
So again, as you said, if Ferrari don't win in Hungary, it's over. I mean, they can try to win the constructors championship by forcing Perez into P4 and P5s, right? But they can't win the drivers championship after Hungary, and even the constructors championship would be way difficult.
It's pretty
Exactly.
out of reach. Yeah,
So
yeah. I think just to add to that, I think on Twitter last week someone uh, uh posted a standing if there were points from first place to 20th place, going from 20 points to one, and Ferrari would be third in the constructors right now because of reliability,
yeah,
just because Mercedes have finished more races. So that just goes to, and I know people will say, oh, it's just a matter of one or two more DNFs for Red Bull, and I'm like, but are they the ones likely to get more DNFs? And on top of that, if you think about engine penalties, then Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz are first in line for engine penalties again,
exactly. And
not Sergio Perez and Max Verstappen. If you talk about strategy, which we'll talk about next, what Ferrari did during the French GP, Red Bull has the upper hand, whether you like it or not. We've seen Sainz make his own calls now. Leclerc has been frustrated with a couple strategy calls in the past, especially if you remember Monaco. Monaco should have been a Ferrari 1-2 easy. Easy. Or at least a Charles Leclerc win easy, and Charles Leclerc ended up P4.
Yeah.
How do you lose three places in Monaco? Um, so yeah, I mean, it does seem like a hollow dream for this season. Next season, and Matthew Binotto also seems I don't know like what press briefing or how the communications team is going about it, but clearly there is something missing again, like we always say with Ferrari and them approaching the season as a whole.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's it's very disheartening, and it's really not. I mean, really not what Ferrari is. When you look at Ferrari, you look at all those world championships, all that glory and everything. But the way Ferrari has operated for the last few seasons, it's like a new team. It's like a Racing Point or someone, right? So I don't know what will happen, but one thing's for sure. Even if Ferrari win in Hungary, and even if they dominate for the rest of the season, in terms of pace, right? For Red Bull can still beat Ferrari in terms of reliability and strategy calls. So, and we know that Ferrari is one of the weakest in terms of both reliability and strategy. And I guess even if they have pace, I don't think they can claim this season as their own.
I can point out one race from the top of my head where the Red Bull will be faster overall, in my opinion, and that is Monza. That is
Yeah.
Ferrari's home race. Uh, so yes, Ferrari won in Austria. It's got a lot of straights, but Monza has longer straights. It's got more opportunity to overtake if you have that top speed and whatnot. So that is one thing. And then we're also going to Spa. So
But
that is another.
Spa does have
Um,
some, medium to high speed corners, so Ferrari
yeah,
can catch up on those.
but but that was the same argument you made for the first few races in the season, after the first couple of races. But what we saw was that losing out speed on the corners does not hurt you as much as losing out speed on the straights, because you always have the
Yeah.
DRS to attack. Whereas Ferrari could not attack if they were second because the DRS was not. Yes, yeah, they've made they've come around and they've made progress, but it hasn't been enough to beat Red Bull down the straight. Regardless, let's go to the Ferrari strategy call. What was your thought on that? Carlos Sainz seemed to defend the strategy call that Ferrari made, that basically put him from P3 to P5. Mike Caulfield, who's ex-Haas strategy engineer, he did not seem to agree with that on Twitter. What were your thoughts?
I mean, it was a very strange series of events, right? First, Carlos Sainz asks them, and they decide that, like, Carlos himself decides that they can pit because he's not able to catch Perez, and if they pit, the plan B or D or whatever, and then at that point, Ferrari deny him the request, right? They said, don't box, you go ahead with on these tires. And then as soon as he overtakes Perez somehow, and clearly Perez was having tire problems of his own, as we saw further down the race, Ferrari call him in. So I don't know what they were thinking. Like, if Sainz was P3, even if he had, degrading tires towards the end of the race, he would have lost minimum one place, maximum two places, sorry, and he would have finished P3 or P4 in my opinion. But now he pitted, and he had to climb back all those places again, and obviously overtaking is, like, he had the softer tires and everything, but overtaking is a challenge in itself.
He just didn't have enough time after that because he only
Exactly.
had 10 laps. So it was like he basically gave up two positions without fighting for it. So like if they would have pitted like during lap 33 and then try to given Carlos Sainz enough time to possibly make it up to P3, then that is a different conversation. Uh, or if they would have tried to go to the end and see what happens, unless there was a scare where there was a tire
Yeah.
blowout possibility, there was absolutely no reason to put with 10 laps to go. Uh, at least from what I think, because with 10 laps to go, you're putting Carlos, Sergio was P3, so you're putting Carlos about 26 seconds behind. Now, Carlos on any tire is not going to have the pace to lap 2.6 seconds faster per lap than Sergio Perez and overtake him and George Russell in the
Him,
process.
George Russell,
So I'm
and the
not sure
McLarens
what
and
they were.
Alpines in between.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, he's definitely not going to have the pace. I'm not sure what Ferrari was, unless they thought that the tire was going to blow up, or Carlos was going to have a similar
Yeah.
crash as Charles, um, possibly, and they were hedging against it. Uh, that is the only reason I can think about why they would suddenly pit Carlos. But again, Carlos was not exactly having tire problems, and when he was having tire problems, they didn't pit him. So who knows? Um, Another question that has come up about Ferrari: can Charles Leclerc ever win a championship if he continues to make such mistakes? I think it is too soon to say that. I think Max Verstappen has made mistakes last year, this year, and I think this is Charles making a mistake, and that is all it is. The cost of the mistake is too huge. You can say the same thing about the way Max goes driving and what his intent is and things like that. And I don't think the cost of the mistake was huge, and that could have been here or there. We can say the same thing about Lewis Hamilton making the mistake last year in Imola, right, and going off in the wet. You don't expect that from Lewis Hamilton. That's not how you win championships. But so I don't think Charles has made enough mistakes for me to go out and say, oh, this is not a world championship material at all. Uh, and even if you look at the video footage from his crash, it almost seems like you can't even tell when the back
Yeah.
of the car gives out, whether when he transitions from just sliding the car into spinning the car. It is that subtle. So I think it's okay. I think George Russell put out a good theory that it might have been the bouncing that led to that. But who knows at the end of the day. And Charles owned up to the mistake. I think he needs to be a little more. He needs to take a more Max
Yeah.
Verstappen approach. I mean, this is not a bad approach at all, but he needs to take a more Max Verstappen approach in the sense that outwardly you say,
Yeah.
shit happens. I'm doing my best. I know what I'm doing, and then you make whatever changes you need to make in the background, because that's what Max did, in my opinion, right? He was driving a little bit recklessly, but he told the media to shut up, and then he suddenly was driving a little bit more maturely. It doesn't just happen overnight. He made the changes he thought he needed to make in order to win.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, see, the fact is, nobody, I mean, people are questioning it now, but nobody is denying the fact that Charles Leclerc is a championship material driver. He has been one of the most, you know, uh, sought after driver for years. Everyone's been talking about him and him against Max Verstappen and all those things. Now, Max Verstappen, he ha- he like the cars are different things, right? But Max Verstappen has fought for a championship last season, and he has fought for wins over the past few seasons. So he knows how to operate in that particular window. Charles Leclerc, he did fight for wins in 2019, but in 2020 last season he was not really there, and this season suddenly he's in a championship fight. And obviously Charles Leclerc makes mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes, and he just needs to, you know, learn from it. Just improve, basically improve, and get a hold of the situation he's in. I don't think he will never win a world championship. If he has the car, if he stops making mistakes or makes less mistakes, changes his style or whatever, he'll win championships. He might even win two, three, four championships, right? So yeah.
Yeah, and like Charles said, he squandered 32 points, but I think Ferrari has squandered just as many. Obviously, he has the same number of DNFs as, at least before, until this, because of reliability, he had the same number of DNFs as Max Verstappen. So the only difference is between strategy calls and Charles making the mistakes, which just goes to show that that overall Red Bull have been operating at a higher ceiling. So that is what is required from both the team and Charles. I think Chris Medlin did a piece on Charles Leclerc, and something showing that Charles Leclerc was not there. Basically, I think it was similar to that. I've read so many articles on just mixing all of them up, but basically that Max Verstappen is a step above right now Charles Leclerc, and there was a lot of comments under that was too harsh. But I mean, that is also an argument you can make, and you can there is enough evidence to show that. but that is not the opinion, I guess, that I hold at
Yeah, I
least.
mean, I guess it's just a matter of time for Charles Leclerc to again see every driver has ups and downs. Every driver makes mistakes, and yes, Charles Leclerc has made many mistakes, and he has owned up to all of them basically. But I guess it's just a matter of time that he'll come around it. And he has a driving coach. He has a
Yeah,
mentor, and yeah, he'll definitely come around it.
yeah. Let's talk about Red Bull now. Obviously, they're the clear title favorites, but one thing that has come to light, and this has been in the conversation for quite a while, and that is that I think Sergio Perez also said about that the car development is getting away from him, and it is almost showing in the pace again. Like after the first few races of the season, Sergio Perez was up there with with Max Verstappen, and now he's again drifting away once more, like we saw last year. He was uncomfortable with the car. Um, what do you think about that? Do you think that is the case, or Sergio Perez is just lacking pace once again?
I mean, it's interesting, and obviously we know that Red Bull, the basic philosophy behind the Red Bull cars is a little bit peaky, and it suits Max Verstappen a bit, right? So that may be the case. It may be the case that the development might have gotten away from Sergio Perez, but I don't know. It it can be a mix of both. It can be a mix of both. If it's a new car, see, if it's a new car, like if the new generation of cars in the start of the season, everyone was on basically the same scale. Everyone was learning and everyone was performing, like learning on the go, right? But now that everyone knows the cars, maybe Max Verstappen is extracting that little bit more from the car than Sergio Perez is able to. Maybe Sergio Perez's nominal performance, like
Yeah.
his performance is almost similar to what it was at the start of the season, but Max Verstappen is going ahead and ahead. Who knows?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Porsche has now said that it will be basically partners with Red Bull, 50% stake in the company. Vedant, is Red Bull going to pull another Red Bull, or is Red Bull going to pull another Mercedes over the next 5 to 7
Yeah, I
years?
was very surprised to hear that Porsche is really investing in the company. I thought it would be another, marketing deal like we have at Sauber or something like that, like Aston Martin had with Red Bull few years ago. But yeah, Porsche investing, I think it's going to be a great force, like one of the largest manufacturers, one of the biggest sports car manufacturers in the world, collaborating with one of the best Formula One teams in the world. So it can go either ways. There can be, a lot of uh, power struggles and everything, and it can go south ways, but it can also go to extreme success. And I'm saying south ways because we have seen what happened with BMW and Williams, right? So it can go either
Yeah,
ways.
yeah.
But yeah, it's exciting to see Porsche really
Uh,
investing and really having stake in the company, in the team, so that they can actually get involved.
Yeah, that is what was interesting, right? That they got a stake in Red Bull Technologies. Obviously, that will include the engine division and a part of the F1 team. But my concern, which is why a lot of people have talked about this concern, and which is why I am willing to trust Porsche's entry more than otherwise. So Porsche didn't really admit, to their plans in F1 or signed on anything until the engine rules was almost finalized. I think they're still not
Yeah.
finalized, but they're almost there to where Porsche wants them. And everyone's concern was what happens when these engine rules need to be updated in, let's say, 6 years, right? Will Porsche up and leave if we don't, if we don't accommodate for them, if they have something that is not in line with what the other manufacturers want? But them buying a stake in Red Bull, again, can go either ways. A, the good way will be, even if there's an engine rule update which Porsche doesn't exactly agree with, they might still continue to invest in it, hoping that something else comes along in the future. Because there is also this Red Bull team that it has a stake in, but at the same time it could, I don't know, I don't know much about how this partnership will function, but it will also mean the demise of Red Bull Racing to a certain extent if it is such a case where Porsche suddenly ups and leaves because of the change in engine regulations. So I would still be wary of it. I just don't know what is the extent of, or what Porsche is thinking, because this engine, it'll be the same as Honda then, or you just become an engine supplier and supply engines to Red Bull, but that is not what they've done. Uh, and being just an engine supplier is what allowed Honda
Yeah.
essentially to come in and out of the sport so many times, or with their entire team. But Porsche haven't exactly done that, and it'll be interesting to see how it pans out, especially when there is talk of changing the engine regulations, which will most likely happen in another 6 years. But well, we'll just have
Yeah,
to
I mean, the
wait and see what
Porsche
happens.
situation is very, very intriguing and very new because they don't really have anything other than money invested in the sport, right? They don't have a factory, they don't have drivers of their own, they don't have a chassis or anything like that. They only have invested money, like they only will invest money in Red Bull, be partners with them, maybe share livery, maybe we will see a livery change at Red Bull, who knows. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. More in like most interesting for me would be how Porsche incorporates its pool of drivers from other motorsports. Maybe Porsche creates its own, junior academy, and Porsche has a Formula E team. They are entering supercars, sorry, sports cars once again, and they all already have GTE programs running around all across the world. Yeah, LMDH, exactly.
And now they're
Sports
doing
cars, as I said.
LMDH or
So
LMH.
it's
Sorry.
going to be very interesting how the
Yeah,
entire
yeah.
Porsche, like it would be exactly like what we have at McLaren right now. The entire roster available at your fingertips to play around with, basically.
Yeah, it is definitely exciting. One last thing before we wrap up. Obviously, we've been here for 30 minutes. I think that's the longest podcast it's been in like a few months now. Alpine have overtaken McLaren, and it seems that those Alpine updates are working really well. Double points finish for the Alpine boys this week, and Fernando Alonso in P6. What a start from that guy. Um, Jumping back on the points bandwagon. How does it feel, Vedant? I'm sure you're
Yeah,
really, really
absolutely.
happy
I
with that
mean,
result.
see, we all know that the Alpine season and especially Fernando's season at the start of the season was not as it showed. He admitted, like he claimed that he had lost 60, 70 points, but the race.com said that he had lost 47 points, whatever. But yeah, I think with the results coming in, it is good. It is clear that Alpine is the faster car than McLaren, and they'll finish P4 in the championship. McLaren will fall back to P5, where they were
Yeah,
few seasons ago. That is
yeah,
sad.
yeah. At the start of the
Yeah,
season, it did not look so well for Alpine. But in Bahrain, Fernando Alonso had to retire because of a
yeah.
sandwich wrapper, I think. Uh, and Ocon did not have a great race. I think Seb Vettel ran into the back of Esteban Ocon in Bahrain. Uh, but doesn't Otmar Snavzar look like a real champion now?
Well,
And
yeah,
having left Aston Martin and joined Alpine.
Otmar has is a legend of the sport already. So yeah,
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 he knows how to finish P4.
yeah.
He knows. But yeah, that's all from my side. With anything else that you wanna mention before we
Well,
wrap up
nothing
this
else, but
podcast?
yeah, I think like there was news that Haas are bringing in one of their biggest upgrades, which would make them quote unquote a white Ferrari or whatever. Let's see how that goes. I think I saw some snapshot on Instagram, on Twitter this morning. So the side
Yeah,
pot looked
yeah,
quite
yeah.
similar, but let's see
I
how
know what
that
you're
goes.
talking about. Yeah.
Because we know that the Ferrari is very unreliable, and we know that the Haas is just
Well, the Ferrari
Well, the
engine
Haas
is
has the
the
Ferrari
Ferrari
engine.
engine is
Haas
unreliable.
has the Ferrari
The
engine.
chassis is
Haas
not.
has
Yeah,
many
yeah,
other
yeah.
Ferrari components, right? And I don't know. I mean, the Haas was just getting better and scoring double points. Just started to score double points. I don't know what will happen to them.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Vedant, for joining me once again. It's been 35 minutes. That's the longest I think we've talked in a stretch
Yeah.
about Formula One in quite some time. But again, thank you once again, and as always, we will catch you on the next one in Hungary. Bye bye.